Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Craven County Board of Commissioners' regular session for Monday, July 20th is now in session. I'd ask each member that is attending that they put their phones on silence. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Bucher,
Here.
Commissioner Liner,
Here.
Commissioner McCabe,
Here.
Commissioner Mitchell. Here. Commissioner Sampson,
Here.
Vice Chairman Jones.
Here.
Chairman Martin.
Here. Can we stand for the pledge and prayer? I pledge
Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us be glad and rejoice in it. Dear Lord, as we begin this day, we can rejoice because you are our hope. And as we pray, may we be reminded that our hope is not based on optimism, but a blessed assurance that this nation and county under God will find their destiny in God's love. We pray that the trust we have placed in the men and women of this Board of Commissioners will prevail in the decisions they make for this county. Speak to their hearts, Lord, through your Spirit, that they may know your will for your people in our land. We pray that each man and woman in this room will not only know your will, but that they may know you in the power of your might. For, Lord, it is you who is the God of our hope, and hope we take hold of in times of turmoil, the anchor that holds us steady in the time of storm, and our refuge when all else has failed. Now, today, and in the days to come, may the God of hope fill each of you with all joy and peace as you put your trust in him. In the name of the Lord, amen.
Amen.
All right, we have the agenda. There is one change to the agenda on item 5. We need additional information on that, so we're going to table that to our next meeting. With that change, do I have a motion to accept the agenda? All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays? The ayes have it. Thank you. Next is the consent agenda, which consists of the minutes of July 6th, tax releases, and the WIT budget program amendment. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to approve. Second, any discussion? No discussion? Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Bucher,
Yes.
Commissioner Liner,
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe,
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Jones.
Yes.
Chairman Martin.
Yes. Next is the Convention Center Caterers Culvert 19 Refund, Tasha McCoy. Good morning, Tasha.
Good morning. How's everyone? Thanks for seeing me this morning. At the beginning of each fiscal year, the Convention Center solicits applications for preferred caterers that clients can contract with for their events. For fiscal year 1920, the Convention Center had 6 preferred caterers that went through this process. The fee for fiscal year 1920 was prorated to $562.54 for the year to reflect the weeks that the center would close between July and September. As everyone is aware, due to COVID-19, the Convention Center has been closed per Governor Cooper's Executive Order 117, 120, 121, 135, 141, and 147, with our last event taking place on March 14th. In light of that, one of our preferred caterers has voiced concern regarding this closure and the impact to these small businesses. It was stated that many caterers, including herself, have received cancellations from clients since the executive order was placed. She is requesting a yearly fee of $562.54 be reimbursed to all caterers. Per staff review of the situation and the amount of business that the caterers were able to secure prior to the closure of the center, we feel that if a refund is to be contemplated, that our recommendation would be refund a prorated amount equal to the number of weeks that the center has been closed. This amount to be refunded 15 weeks, reimbursing $216.30 to each caterer, a total of $1,297.80. A spreadsheet has been provided in attachment 2 that shows the calculations.
Okay. We have to consider request for a refund of the annual catering fee due to the convention center's closure. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Do I have a motion and a second? Is there any discussion? Commissioner Liner?
Yes, ma'am. Is this 15 weeks starting from when to when?
The last event was March 14th until the end of June.
End of June?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Any other discussion?
So, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Ms. McCoy, so what we're looking at then is by giving this refund, then in a few more months, we would consider it again?
No, sir, we've already prorated the amount to start September 1 for this new fiscal year.
Okay. This is taking care of last year's budget?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, being no other questions, we had a motion and a second. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Commissioner Booker,
Yes.
Commissioner Liner,
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe,
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Jones,
Yes.
Chairman Martin.
Yes. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Y'all have a good day.
That was easy.
Yes, it was. Thank you.
Okay. Next is Recreation and Parks, Billy Wilkes and Gene Hodges. Well, I see Billy.
He's hiding out there, I think. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Billy.
We have an opportunity, is the first item that I have up for you, to apply for a waterfront access grant. You should have some information on in your packet there. I want to describe it briefly for you. I want to see behind me, there's a picture of our waterfront dock that we have at Creekside Park. It's about 200 feet. Provides access to Bryce's Creek for those of you who may not be aware. It was built in about 2000 to 2001, so it's about 20 years old. I'm going to talk about some of the opportunities we have with this grant. It is through the North Carolina Public Beach and Coastal Waterfront Access that we have this opportunity. We submitted a pre-application in May of this year. That pre-application was received and was determined that we were able to apply for a final application, which is in turn due in August. So we needed to bring it to your attention to make sure you were okay with us proceeding, but also to allow for public comment if we can at the August meeting. Let me tell you a little bit about this grant. We're going to hit 3 specific areas. One is inclusion, one is safety, and the other one will be refacing the dock. So talk a little bit about inclusion. It's kind of hard with it being right behind me, but I'm going to turn and kind of look at the dock just a second. As you see, this side here is where we have our sidewalk entrance into the dock area, which was added just a couple of years to make it easier for folks who have mobility issues. As you come down, we have a kayak launch right here behind my head that, if I can step away from just a second, this is the area that's going to be inclusive. Okay, we want to add what's called an aluminum gangway, which is essentially a walkway with railings, down to a floating dock, which would provide the access for this kayak launch. So everybody would have the opportunity to get down there equally. So that is our hope with the first part of this, to provide inclusion. We're also going to turn the launch going out towards the creek, so it makes it easier. Instead of going back towards the dock, they're actually going out to the creek. That's one of the things we'll do as part of this grant as well. I'm going to talk a little bit about safety with this dock as well. I think this will address a couple of safety issues. One, sorry about that. One would be that we're going to provide a handrail all the way across the front of this dock. And I think that's important because youth have more and more become users of not only this dock, but the waterfront area in general. And I think parents will feel a lot better if we have a railing right in front of that dock. So that's one of the areas we'll address as far as safety. The second one is the cutouts. You see the green on here are fishing cutouts. So we'll actually go into the dock and provide an area for fishing. Well, why is that important? Well, right now, you fish off the dock and folks are walking back and forth, and so you're getting between the person fishing and sitting, and this will provide an access point for folks to fish. There's 2 of them, both sides of the dock. We want to add those as well. I think that's huge. It's become more and more used, and as I go down there just to try to look at the condition of the dock, one of the things I notice is as folks are fishing, you're always stepping in and around, which I don't mind for me, but for the general public, I think it's a great idea to provide those fishing cutouts. We have that at our nature park. That would provide 2 of those as well. And then the third part or aspect of this grant would be just to reface the entire dock, so it would have a new, fresh look. Now, to do that, just that part of it would cost a lot more than our match on this grant. So at some point in the near future, we were going to have to do that anyway. We're looking at that as a future project, so that would reface the entire dock, all the handrails, all the wood, everything would be refaced as well. The total project cost is about $118,000. Of that, the county match is 25% or $29,500. So that's generally the project in a scope. What we'd like to do is come back in August, allow the public to comment if they, and the reason is part of the grant process. They require us to have an opportunity for public comment. And so that would provide that access for it. And then at that point, we can submit the minutes from the meeting, and that would suffice for what they need for this grant process, which again is due as August 17th is the due date for that.
Okay.
Any questions on?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
Right there by the fishing platform there, and here is the float up the kayak. Did they interfere with the fishing?
So you talking about right in here?
Over here with the green part where the fishing pier gonna be.
Okay. Ask that one more time. I'm sorry.
Here is a photo dock.
Yep. That's okay.
It was.
This is where the kayak gonna be put up.
Right here.
Right.
Yeah.
When you go to the right, are they interfering with the people that's fishing?
No, man. No, sir. We haven't had any issues with that. I think as they fished before, they fished along the entire dock, and we've never had that I've seen any interference with fishing. What typically happens is most folks that kayak will take off from here and they will go the other way because that's the better access and the better place. It's away from sort of powerboat traffic. So I've never noticed any issues with fishing and kayaking sort of because the dock is long enough that we can have both, and I haven't noticed any interference or issues with that before. Kayaking, honestly, we probably have 2 to 1 the amount of folks that kayak versus fish out at this dock. So it's a lot of kayaking activity we have, for sure. And we also have kayak fishing, which is sort of a new thing here in the last several years where we'll see folks take off with fishing poles in tow and go along the creek and fish as well.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I add one thing? So in 2007, the state legislature added what was called a saltwater fishing license. And a portion of those proceeds goes into a pot of money, which is then allocated out to the coastal counties through grants. Billy, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we've gotten some before.
Yes, sir.
But this is an opportunity for the folks in Craven County who have bought those licenses to get some of that funding back to improve the access.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Basically, we're voting today to receive information and
Yes.
authorize the item on the agenda on the 3rd.
That's correct.
Okay.
And then once receiving public input, if
And
we
you'll
can.
get public comment.
Yes,
We'll
sir.
get the money at that time.
Perfect.
Yes.
Billy, I noticed you used the word reface rather than replace. What does that look like?
Well, it'll be every single piece of wood except for the structural part, which seems to be okay at this point. Will be replaced. All the boards, all the waterfront railings, all of that will be replaced.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
yes, sir.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? The ayes have it.
Okay, thank you. All right.
In the future, let's get a motion first before we start asking questions, okay? Next is the construction of the recreation center.
Yes, sir. So we have our office building, which at a February 17th meeting, the county commissioners approved us to move forward with the construction of our recreation administration building at Creekside Park. Currently, we are on time and on budget, which is a good thing to be. The bricks are on the outside of the building, on the inside of the building. We're starting to see primer paint, so it's starting to look like it's going to be something. But at the end of last budget year, as required, the money went from the project into the general fund. And so at this point, we need to request that a budget amendment be submitted as the money to go back into the fund to pay for the remainder of the building. That amount is listed on that as $414,915. So that is what we were bringing forward today. Like I said, we anticipate an early September move-in, we hope. And right now, it seems like we're on pace for that.
Okay.
Any questions on that?
So can I have a motion to approve the $414,915?
Second.
Second. Motion is second. Now, discussion. Any discussion? Any questions? Being no questions, no discussion, could I have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Booker?
Yes.
Commissioner Liner?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Jones?
Yes.
Chairman Martin?
Yes. Thank you, Billy.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Department Matters in the Health Department, Jennifer Blackman. Morning, Jennifer.
Morning.
Okay, so first on the agenda, we presented a policy back when COVID first started for on-call pay for the nurses who were working nights and weekends, monitoring any cases that we receive. That policy for on-call pay ended June 30th, 2020. So I would like to ask for it to be extended until December 31st, 2020. I think that COVID's not at a point it's going away. We're going to continue to see cases, and the faster we can work them and isolate and quarantine people at home, the faster we can keep it out of the population.
Okay, I need a motion.
So
then.
moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any questions? Being no discussion and questions, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Booker?
Yes.
Commissioner Liner?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Jones?
Yes.
Chairman Martin?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is the budget amendment.
That's correct. We've received a lot of COVID funding over this past few months, but this one comes directly from the North Carolina Community Health Association. We received $126,668 to be used for coronavirus disease and also anything related to coronavirus prevention and testing. As you can see, we want to plan to spend it on janitorial supplies, medical supplies, lab supplies, contract services, contract employees, and then also because we're kind of down in our numbers of patients we're seeing in person, we're doing more things over telephone calls. So we have staff members doing other duties assigned to COVID. We'd like to offset some of those salaries, which is, if you can see the cost allocation to the health department. So that money would go towards salaries for those employees that are working on COVID-related expenses.
Okay, can I have a motion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion? Being no discussion, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Booker?
Yes.
Commissioner Liner?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Jones? Chairman Martin?
Yes, thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Next is one that we have tabled. Jack, do you want to make any comment on that?
No, sir. I'm going to get with the sheriff this week and get it ready for the August meeting.
Okay. Next is Craig Warren, Department Matters on Finance, Colbert.
Good morning, Board. I have one item on the agenda for you this morning, and that includes an update to the Coronavirus Relief Fund plan. On May 28th, the Board of Commissioners approved a plan approving the use of coronavirus relief funds in the amount of $1,911,835. The initial plan provided allocations to the various agencies within the county, including each municipality, each fire and rescue district, and 2 nonprofits with direct responses to the pandemic. On July 1st, 2020, the governor signed Session Law 2020-80, which appropriated an additional $1,982,308 of CRF funds, bringing Craven's total to $3,894,143. With this new legislation comes new guidance. Initially, there was no requirement for the counties to share any portion of the CRF funds. The new legislation now requires counties allocate the minimum 25% of the total distribution for use by the municipalities within the county. For Craven, that 25% municipal share comes to $974,217. The municipalities will be required to develop and submit a plan by September 1st, 2020. Any municipality that does not do so by that deadline will return the funds to the county for redistribution. The deadline to spend these funds remains at December 30th, 2020. In your agendas, you'll have this updated PowerPoint slide summarizing the revised plan along with the updated totals. The 3 major changes from the initial version of the plan include the following. Those are the county's total CRF distribution was updated to the total of $3,894,143. As mentioned earlier, that was an increase of the second allotment and totaled an increase of $1,982,308 from the original amount. Resources allocated for the purchase of supplies, equipment, and services needed for the county's emergency response to the COVID-19 was also increased by $1,024,506 to $1,633,506. Steve, if you'll back up one slide, please. Okay, got it right there. Okay. The allocation to cover the payroll expenses for your public safety employees was increased from $900,000 to the $1,086,420. The municipal share was increased. Originally, we had $202,000. That was increased to $974,217, which reflects a 25% requirement. There was no change in the municipal distribution. Those remained based on population. And there were no changes to the fire and rescue and nonprofit shares. Steve, if you'll flip to the next slide, please. These are your new shares based on the allocation of population. The total of all these add up to the $974,217. Okay, at this time, in order to carry out the CRF plan, a budget amendment is also attached to the last page of this presentation. You'll flip it one more time, Steve, please. There's a budget amendment being requested in the amount of $2,856,723. This amount represents the county's COVID-19 emergency response, along with all the approved appropriations within that to the outside agencies. The difference between the total of the 3.8 and the 2 in the budget amendment is mostly the difference of the payroll expenses related to public safety. Since those are all already programmed into the original budget, there's no need to double budget for those expenses.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Next is discussion. Are the cities responsible for that money? We're not responsible for that money?
Yes, sir. What I've seen, I think the new understanding is that any organization that receives funds through this program will be responsible
Okay.
for how they spend them.
That kind of takes us off the hook.
Well, I still think you're on the hook.
Yeah, there's
with the
Still
city.
on the hook.
I don't think you can get out because you're
So
still.
we still got to make sure that money's being spent properly.
Yes, sir.
That's
And that's just to not dampen the mood here a little bit. It's a lot of money, and we're very thankful for it. There is still a significant challenge on how you can spend it. That hasn't changed. Craig and I have been on probably 15 conference calls in the last 2 months. Cities are going to have just as hard a time as we are in spending this money. And you got a short timeline. You got to have it done and expended and the product in hand by December 30th.
That's correct.
It's a short timeline.
All right, any other discussion?
Talking with Raleigh, John Bell and the leadership up there still says the county is responsible, going out just like they're responsible to the feds. We're responsible to them, and the cities are responsible to us, so we've had this conversation.
Okay, so then, still falls back on the counties.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Craig, when will we receive the funds in our hands? Craig?
The first allotment, the $1,911,835, that was received when we filed our first version of the plan. That was accepted, and then not long after that, we received that first payment. The second allotment is undetermined at this time. They haven't really said, they haven't or released an exact date of when that will be distributed.
Second question is, how long before you reach out to the municipalities?
We will begin that process this week.
Now, do the municipalities understand this?
I don't think so.
They, as to my knowledge, they've been on one, they had a municipal call to kind of bring them up to speed on some of the requirements.
Right.
But they haven't been at it for several months like we have. So.
Well, the reason I asked that, because I had no calls from any of the municipalities in my district, that's why I was asking. Okay. All right, we have a motion, second. Do I need a roll call vote on this?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Bucher,
Yes.
Commissioner Liner,
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe,
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell,
No, yes.
Commissioner Sampson,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Jones,
Yes.
Chairman Mark.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is appointments. They'll be effective immediately unless otherwise specified. We have the Adult Care Home Advisory Committee. Do we have any for that? No. Nursing Home Advisory Committee vacancy. Recreation Committee, Regional Aging Board, Senior Legislative Tar Heel, Coastal Carolina Airport, and Craven County ABC Board, Fireman's Relief Fund Board of Trustees. Let's take Recreation Advisory Council, the following seek reappointment. Chad Braxton. I believe Chad is going to stay on there.
Correct.
I would ask to reappoint.
Yeah.
Yes.
District 4, Matt Webb,
I ask that he be reappointed.
reappointment, okay. Dan Miller, I'll ask for reappointment there. So that's 3 to be reappointment by acclamation. Havelock Board of Adjustment, we have Ruben McHale,
I nominate both to be reappointed.
both reappointed, okay, by acclamation. Juvenile Convention Council, the following seeks reappointment. Debbie Hodges, school designee. I would reappoint Debbie. Fire Tax Commissioners, the following seek reappointment. Sue Authors,
Make the
District.
nomination to reappoint.
Okay. Emergency Service Advisory Committee, Jane Sobator and Deborah Rogers.
I move that we reappoint.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner McCabe.
Mr. Chair, I have applicant for Recreation Advisory Committee, District 5, Cutouts, George. I have application I gave to our secretary.
Okay, thank you. Upcoming appointments expiring in August, Emergency Medical Service Advisory Council, Nicholas Salter, Cherry Point Fire and Rescue, Mark Dahl, Realms Fire Responder District 4, James Davis, District 4, Doug Ferguson, Citizen Rep, Gene Matthews, Community Child Protection Team, and Fire Tax Commissioners. Okay? County Attorney, the esteemed Harry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's a good way to start a Monday. Commissioners, I have 3 items for your consideration this morning. The first 2 involve initial offers on county property acquired through the tax foreclosure process. The first parcel is located at Highway 55 West with the parcel ID number of 3055040. The offer amount is $2,850. The taxes and the cost of the foreclosure were $2,842.39, and the current tax value is $22,500. As the board is accustomed to, if you approve this morning, we will advertise it for upset bids, and the board will see this matter again for final approval after that process is concluded. And it is our recommendation that you approve this initial offer.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays? The ayes have it.
Item 2 is again an initial offer, and as was mentioned for item 1, we'll put it out for upset bids, and the board will see it again, assuming you approve it this morning. The property is located at 1146 Temple Point Road with the parcel ID number of 5008133. The offer amount is $3,760. The taxes and cost of the tax foreclosure were $3,757.13, and the current tax value is $20,180. We recommend that the board approve this initial bid.
I have a motion. Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays? The ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, the third item has been before the board on 2 prior occasions. This is the property that's located at 865 Adams Creek Road. And as the board will recall, at the last commissioners meeting, you took action to authorize the conveyance of this property to the Harlow Volunteer Fire Department of Craven and Carteret counties. And the process is fairly straightforward. In your agenda packet, you have a resolution for your consideration. You also have a draft deed, and we would also have to notice this transaction in the local newspaper. The statute reads that a notice shall be made once, and we can't actually sign and deliver the deed until 10 days has elapsed. I think the theory is that if any member of the public has an issue with the conveyance, they can come and share it with you perhaps at the next meeting. I do want to point the board's attention to Exhibit B on the deed. Part of the action at the last meeting was to do what we need to do to secure the property for the exclusive use of the volunteer fire department, and that's what Exhibit B seeks to do. We really have 2 conditions in there. One, that it cannot be conveyed, transferred, or leased to any third party. And secondly, that the use of the property is basically exclusively for volunteer fire department purposes directly related to the protection of the citizens of Craven County and their property. I think that language is consistent with the board's intent at the last meeting. I hope it's consistent as well with the presentation we received from the leadership of the volunteer fire department. So if the property is ever not needed for the fire department purposes, we have a very solid legal avenue to get it back. The board has several options this morning. You certainly can approve things as presented. If there are any changes, we can make changes and approve the conveyance subject to those changes. And of course, if the board desires further detailed discussion, we can table the matter and have any dialogue we may need, bring it back to the board at a future meeting. So I will proceed at your pleasure and direction.
Okay, may I have a motion? Any second?
Second.
Okay, let me have a roll call vote on this, please.
Mr. Chairman, do you want any discussion on this matter?
Yep, we'll have a discussion. Any discussion?
Or might I add questions? It is a
Any questions?
slightly unique situation.
Mr. Chairman, the motion is stating that we proceed forward in the conveyance
Yeah.
as written.
We pretty much, this was approved the last meeting, and we're just going now that this is only going to be used by the fire department for fire.
Correct.
Okay, no discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Bucher,
Yes.
Commissioner Liner,
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe,
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell,
No.
Commissioner Sampson,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Jones,
Yes.
Chairman Martin.
Yes.
Thank you.
you, sir.
That concludes my report.
I think we got the county manager next.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me here today. Something was mentioned at your last meeting, but I don't think it got the attention it deserved. And I'm going to say it again for everybody, for the public and the commissioners and staff. But a couple weeks ago, our animal shelter was inspected by the state inspectors that come in a couple times a year. I've never heard of a 100% inspection report in 15 years of doing this, and we got 100%. And I think Eileen and the staff and the health department folks deserve a big kudos from where we've come over the last 18 months to getting a 100% report. Mr. Hodges and myself rode by Friday. We were having a new emergency generator installed there, which I also want to let you know. So in the future, when hurricanes, we'll have air conditioning for the animals and power. But the facility looks great. We've got dog's breakfast, excuse the pun, of animals there, ducks, chickens, pigs, you name it. But those folks are doing a great job, and I'm really proud of them. If you get a chance, stop by. I really think they like having visitors. They like you coming in, looking at the improvements they've made. I hope you get the same feeling I did, which was a sense of accomplishment once you're in there. I mentioned there's several ongoing capital projects. Mr. Wilkes mentioned one this morning, which was the Parks and Rec building. I also viewed that on Friday. It's coming along very nicely. It's going to be a great building and a great move as we start doing the stair step for other county projects. Mr. Hodges and I met last week also with the architect and engineer. There was some money in the budget for a potential new Havelock building. We've gone ahead and kicked that process off. Again, we're contingent on DOT's ability to get funding to start moving some of the projects they have on the table over before that one really gets to the finish line.
For Mr. Liner's new office, or what?
Yes, sir. We got a closet just for him.
I hate to tell you this, but I'll be out of office by the time that's it.
We hope you vote there, sir. Many of you attended the event with Congressman Murphy. I unfortunately couldn't be there. I heard it went really well. I know his staff was there working last week. We hope to have them before the Board of Commissioners at your next meeting to talk a little bit about what services are provided for the public. So I'll try to get up with them and get them on the agenda. And lastly, I had not had a department head call in some time. We required them several times a week there in March, April, and May. But I felt like we were due for one last week because we had a change. We'd had a real long period of sort of what we felt like was improvement. I'm only talking inside the county with COVID. I'm not talking about things that are happening outside the county. But last week I felt like we were regressing a little bit. So we had a call. We're getting back on the same page. We're transitioning, and I wish Scott Harrelson was here because he could say it a lot more eloquently than me, but we're going more from the travel and direct contact to some community transmission in our county, which means we got to be more careful. We got to start doing the things to protect our workforce and the continuity of government. That's what we're concerned on this side. So we had a great call. I did take the pulse. We have been at this for 4 months now, a different way of life, a different way of doing things, very challenging environment. Department heads are still very enthusiastic as much as they can be. We've got a great group of folks, and we're still continuing to fight the fight because, as you know, we're the front line. Public health, DSS, we've got to be here. There's no question. We can't cut the lights off, shut the door, and say, hey, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. We've got to protect the integrity of being here for people when they need us. So with that said, I just want to give you an update on that. Mr. Chair, that's my report.
Thank you. Commissioners' reports. Commissioner McCabe.
Yes, I would like to ask the board, how can we, I know this coronavirus had a lot of kids down home and they can't go to school. I have, my complaint was people from Adam Creek Road, Adam Creek community, they don't have internet. I'm trying to find out how can you get internet down in the Adam Creek community. Well, kids can't go to school now, there's no way they can learn.
Well, I think that Commissioner Jones is going to approach that subject, and because he has the same problem, and in my district, I have the same problem, okay? And I'll let him talk about it first.
You want to go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead.
You go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner McKay, for bringing it up. Last week, County Manager and myself reached out to one of our providers here in the county who provides internet service mostly for the area which I represent. We definitely have those individuals who have other providers, but this one provider I had received right much concern about. And you're correct. We've got a big problem in Craven County, I think, going into this school year, and what the challenge that so many have shared with me. I've had many emails from folks over the last few days that saw the story on Channel 12 and heard the plea that we had in Western Craven County. And one parent shared with me their experience from this past school year, in that they went 3 different times to meet with this internet provider, and at their home to try to get the service corrected. They had to take off of work. They said they were not able to, their children could not complete assignments, and they said it was a real struggle. And it's a balancing act right now with a lot in the rural areas, and trying to decide, do you send your child to school? Do you not send them? But they're still, regardless of whether you send them, they're still going to have days that they are required to go online. And so county manager definitely, I mean, I know it's going to be addressed by the Board of Education, but I mean, I've got a concern in how the Board of Education is going to respond to these individuals, these students that can't get their assignments there, can't sign on, you know. So to kind of sum it up, Commissioner McCabe, the county manager and myself and the chairman have arranged for a meeting, Zoom, with one of the vice presidents for one of these companies in the next 2 weeks to address concerns that we have. But I might relate to the county manager to just maybe, you know, I've had several folks call me and have asked about the possibility of, you know, somebody brought up, and I'll mention the provider, Verizon. They said they know that in areas they put out what they call a jetpack, and they put it on the towers, and it sends signals out and so forth. And my question would be, is there other options that we have as a Board of Commissioners that we can help promote? I mean, we can't provide that service, I know, but that we can help promote and push forward. Is there anything that we can do as far as trying to get with our legislators? And, you know, I know we're already behind on that, but what can be done from this Board of Commissioners? I think the citizens of this county are looking to us to do something.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question? Is it possible to use any of the COVID relief funds that we've received from the state to either purchase or lease, or I'm gonna call it a jetpack, at least a temporary mobile large broadcast area hotspot broadcasting system?
You'll have to refer that to the county manager.
Yes, sir. Something I have to look into.
Yeah.
We'd have to check the wording. I know, just to be clear, I know the public education got CARES Act funding just like us. One of the pots they received was for just that. I just don't know how much they got and what process they're using to figure
You
it out.
know, I've investigated this too, because I've gotten complaints from Vanceboro especially. And most of the cases are that the companies don't feel they can make enough money, really, that's what it comes down to. But one thing I might suggest, there are other companies, this is CenturyLink and some of the other phone calls, but UseLink, Usenet, I think it's called, Usenet, I am using Usenet, and I guess I get 10 gigabytes, but you can purchase more. But it's something that, they might be more cooperative. It's just something that we might want to contact. This is a serious problem in Commissioner Jones's district and my district up in the Vanceboro area, especially for the school children, and especially with the virus that we've got now. I mean, it's important that they have some way of getting education, and in your district also. So we take it very seriously, and we'll keep on top of it.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say that I have people also in the rural area that
That's
face
true.
the same problem.
Yeah.
So we really need to work on and trying to
Yeah, I think
see that all our kids get an equal chance.
I think we have enough people that it would mean something.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Jack, I know that maybe last year in the General Assembly, there were some rural counties that they identified to provide some assistance funding for internet service. Am I correct or wrong? I think
Right.
Jones County maybe was one of those.
You're correct.
I don't know, you know, we talk about resolution after resolution and sending our message, you know, but I don't know if it might pay us. I mean, we got a lot of legwork to do in this, and but I don't know if it would pay us as a Board of Commissioners. It may not to go ahead and put out something from Craven County Board of Commissioners, you know, to our legislators.
Yep.
Number one, that, you know, we've got a lot of citizens in this county that do not have internet service. And we too, you know, would like to receive some type of that funding too for our county. I mean, I know they probably put it in the tier system, I don't know, but,
Chip, I had a question.
But you are right, it is the state that we've got to go after.
Correct. Well, and it was, Commissioner Jones is exactly right. The problem is it never made it out of Tier 1 with the
Right.
first round of funding. I don't know the second round's ever been allocated out. It was supposed to include some Tier 2, but they were gonna look at it from Tier 2 bottom to Tier 2 top. We're sort of middle to top, so.
Yeah.
And you also have to have a private provider, a cooperative or utility company to provide the service. That was the bigger challenge.
With it, Mr. Chair, I mean, I've had the experience with the orange lines run across the road that make it through about 2 drive-bys. I think we need to start thinking out of the box. I cannot believe that there is not some company somewhere that does not have some power pack that you can put on a cell tower that broadcasts, if we are not getting satisfaction from our current providers. And I think that needs to be a top priority for the county. We're going to be with COVID for a long time, and there's no excuse to me that the county is not addressing this. We've had a lot of lead time, knowing that at least some students, some days of the week, we're going to have to use online learning.
well, if you think about it, Commissioner Mitchell, we sort of, to some degree, put the cart before the horse. We are purchasing iPads for them to use, but yet so many of them can't use them.
Right, correct.
I mean, you know, don't get me wrong, I think it's money well spent, because we got to think about every child, but we've got a lot of our young folks that, you know.
They can't use that resource.
No.
And to me, if we have to put some money to it, then I think we need to. It's especially for, younger children, you know, 1st through 3, if you don't get those building blocks, you never catch up. So to me, this needs to be highest priority for the county.
Okay,
Chairman, if, put this here also, if we do find a provider for the internet, we have to make sure that we can keep it. Or once it dies out, I wouldn't go back and say, well, you got a certain time, and
Yeah.
get rid of it. We're gonna keep it forever.
well, all that's gonna come through the state anyway.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's, you gotta remember, that's all federally controlled.
That's right.
Those people have boundaries.
Yeah.
And they're not gonna cross boundaries. That's a federal issue that the state's gotta get involved with to change it, because
Correct.
you can't take Verizon and go to my area to provide it, same way Spectrum can't come up here in some of the areas or down further. Now, the only good way we may have to get a hold of this with is Carteret Craven Electric, which is a co-op. They're the best thing we've got going for down in your area.
Yeah.
And
So we look at it.
we've got the new guy, I think you know who he is and everything. If not, I got his.
He's a very nice guy. Very nice.
Yeah, but a lot of the telephone companies, because of the dish, can furnish where the cable companies can't. So, it's something that we're gonna be working on, so hopefully we'll have some good news about it. All right, Commissioner Booker.
Just a quick comment about, while we're talking about schools. Last week, our school board had a difficult, I'm sure, a difficult meeting and a difficult time making a decision. And I'm sure you're all aware that they've decided that the older students, if I understand this correctly, are going to go to school 1 day a week. I'm really concerned about 16-year-old kids 4 days a week at home, mom working, dad working, or maybe single mom. It's a real concern, and I will tell you that an acquaintance of mine who is in charge of one of the private schools in our county said that their phone has been ringing off the hook of people saying, I want to get my kid into your school. So what I'm saying is this is going to really work against, our population of students has declined, which means the income coming in has declined from the state, federal, whatever. And now it's going to decline even more. The homeschooling, I know of one neighborhood where 4 moms have gotten together and they're going to work together to homeschool their kids. So it all started with the governor. Instead of him saying each county can run their own school district and decide how to do it, in his wisdom, he gave the whole state all one size fits all again. And it's a real problem. I see the kids that are most in need of being in that school every day to get the learning are the ones that are going to get hurt the most, because they're going to be sitting at home and not getting direction and learning. So I don't know that there's anything, I'm not suggesting we need to do anything as commissioners. I'm just saying we got a challenge on our hands, and I think the school board, I'm not going to say they did or didn't do what they should have done, but high school students sitting at home 4 days a week is an absolute formula for disaster, in my opinion. That's it.
I would agree with you on that one. Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
since the subject's already been brought up, Jack, if, in which we know, I mean, it's a reality that the numbers are going to decrease. I mean, that's all I'm hearing in my western end of the county. It's homeschooling, Christian school, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, when will we know what the figures are? I mean, the process and how much we're going to be short as a county?
Right, so that's a great question, and I think it's going on right now, Commissioner Jones. I think parents are making the decision now because, if I'm not mistaken, July 24th is the deadline to determine if you're going to enroll in the Plan B, option 3, or you're going to do virtual academy, or you're not going to enroll at all and you're going to do some other alternative. So I think you'll know right quickly, but the measurement tool for the state, and I'm sorry, I'm drawing, it's either the 10th or the 20th day of the school year, what the attendance enrollment is on that day generates the funding to the next checkpoint.
Right.
So what that enrollment is on that day is going to be key for us, and each student, they call it an ADM, average daily membership, they count in that number, you get an allotment from the state based on that. What we don't know, because we're not going to be in a vacuum here, I mean, this is going to be 100 counties, 116 school systems are going to have this issue, is what's the state going to do to kind of hold the school systems, inherently the counties, harmless against that drop in population because of COVID. So there's a lot of unanswered questions, but yes, if nothing changes, we potentially could see a significant funding cut that wouldn't be known until, say, September.
That answer.
Yeah, that answers the question.
It could be a disaster.
It could, right? We've already, well, I mean, we've lost 4,000 students over the last 5 years, so that's already been a challenge.
And the homeschooling is getting bigger and bigger.
Well, it's going to get bigger, even more so as a result
Yeah,
of the
sure it is.
decision last week.
Sure it is.
And Jack, Mr. Manager, we don't know that the state's going to do anything, correct?
Correct.
As far as making us whole.
Correct.
So, you know, we could see a big drop in funds coming in, and then what's going to happen? They're going to be looking to us saying, hey, we need help. And it's a real concern. I don't know what right now we can do today other than sound the alarm that we're concerned about where we're headed here.
Most of your state funding, sorry, Commissioner Lyon, I didn't mean to jump in on you, but it's instructional cost, right? So it's based on, they provide you a certain amount of money based on the kids to pay for the instructional costs. So that's where you're going to have to pick up the ball, teacher pay. And that's what it comes down to, paying teachers.
Well, we also gotta be supportive. Let's keep in mind, and I think Denny hit it right on the head. This is a one-size-fits-all category. I mean, if you look and read that memorandum and everything that came out, that school system didn't have a choice of what they selected. They just could not meet, you talking about a money drain, they just could not meet one kid a seat on a bus to bring everybody in. And having only, in a high school, only having 12 people in a classroom, you just couldn't meet it. I mean, they were, you talking about us having some issues, they were stuck between a rock and a real hard place. And the governor didn't help us out. I think our only avenue and leeway out of this thing is having the chair and the managers put together some letters to our representatives up in Raleigh and get them online, because this is going to kill us. I mean, I've talked to Jack all last week down in my neighborhood. I mean, it's all over Facebook. It's even out in the papers. They're asking for people. Who's going to homeschool? Who's going to start up, a charter?
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to school that way.
Yep.
And once they start homeschooling, they're not going back. I'll tell you that the experience that those kids get when they're getting constant instruction, one-on-one, is I've got 3 grandchildren that were homeschooled. They all went on to college with honors. One's a doctor now. Homeschooling works, and people that were reluctant to do it now are going to say, hey, I think we have to do it.
Yeah, Jack, why don't we get together and put a strong letter that we can send off to the legislator, to John Bell. I guess John Bell's the best one to send it to, right?
I say it to both leaderships.
Both
Berger
leaderships,
and-
yeah. Okay, Commissioner E.T.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just 2 items. Number one, I thought that the ribbon cutting at Congressman Murphy's new office by our Veterans Center went very, very well. With it, it's a great step forward for our citizens to have access to representatives to their congressman on Capitol Hill. He followed up with a visit, Dr. Murphy followed up with a visit to our new cancer center. And then on Friday, I accompanied him to a visit down to the Fleet Readiness Center. This has been on the books for a number of months. It kept getting postponed due to various COVID issues and other things going on in Washington. I think it was very well received. It was scheduled for an hour and a half. Finally ran us out after almost 3 hours. And he will be coming back with Representative Hudson, whose area encompasses Fayetteville and the Fort Bragg complex, later in August. So I think we are working hard to establish strong ties with our new congressman, and I think that will be well received and will benefit our citizens here. That's all, sir.
Okay. In the future, when Congressman Murphy's in town, I'd appreciate if you let me know, and I would make sure I accompany you with that.
Sir, I wasn't in charge of the visit, so this was, it was being run out of his staff.
Commissioner, where am I at now? John?
Oh, yeah. All right. I'd just like to say this morning that we have lost a great friend in our Congressman, John Edwards. He has done an outstanding job. I've been knowing him ever since '63, when it was in Washington, D.C., with Dr. Martin Luther King. And he worked hard ever since. A person that was willing to give up his life to help this country. He did not slow down. He was beat up, put in jail, went through all kinds of trouble, trying to make a great country out of our country. And I appreciate him very much for the suffering that he went through to be able to make a difference. And I can say for a fact that if you're going to make a difference in our society, you're going to have to go through some suffering. Because you have some people that just don't want this to be the greatest country that I know of right now. Might be slipping a little bit, but we're going to build it back up. Make it that country that we intend for it to be. Men, women, children, all colors can come together as brothers and sisters in love. Like Jesus always told me as I studied the scripture, that you got to love the unlovable. That's not an easy job to do. But we're going to have to get on our knees and start praying that we'll be able to look out for those who cannot look out for themselves. Even those that don't care nothing about themselves. Because a lot of them have families. So we have to care for the families also. It's a hard pill to swallow, and you can't take care of your own family, then you got to help somebody else along the way. But I can tell you without even flinching that it can be done with the help of the Lord. You can't do it by yourself. Because I know all of us have come short. And He will forgive us for it. But we're going to have to catch ourselves sometime and realize that we are brothers keeper. That's all I have.
Commissioner Liner.
I only have one thing. If it wasn't down Friday, we have a new CG at the Second Mall. Changed the command this past week. And that's it.
Okay. Vice Chairman Jones.
We've already talked about the internet service, Mr. Chairman. The only other thing that I'd like to just ask the county manager is the Executive Order 124 by the governor, and maybe a different number now, but that dealt with utility service, which banned the charging of late fees, interest, and terminating accounts. Do you know when that's supposed to end?
It's in August, but
August?
I've understood that there's a hard line that there's got to be improvement on unemployment before that may, which I think we saw, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was extended again, I guess, is the way I look at it.
The only statement I'll make is I know you'll present a plan to an appropriate time to talk about that late payment. But municipalities, Coast City and Dover especially, have been relaying to me about the amount of money that's owed to them. And I think we're going to find our smaller municipalities in this county especially, which you got Vanceburg, Bridgeton, that's going to face some financial hardships because of it. And I'm really concerned about that. You know, when you talk about $5,000 for Coast City that they're due, I mean, to them, that's like, you know, 50,000, you know, or more, you know. So I think we need to be aware of it. So,
Mr. Jones, it's interesting you mentioned that. I spoke with Mr. Gerard, our water superintendent, last week, and I kind of was just spitballing with him about where we were. He said it was about 5% of our payer base had stopped paying during this time. Of course, I didn't equate that to a number with him, but just to give you perspective. So, you know, 5% in a much smaller budget like a small utility company in Dover, that's a big number to them.
big number.
Yeah.
That's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, many of them are municipalities, especially in Bridgeton. I attended their town hall meeting, and they're in a situation where they've got a street there, Avenue B, it got holes all over it, graders, and they can't even afford to fix them, and it's not easy for them.
Chair, I have one thing I forgot to ask you, everybody. When we still gonna look at the EMS thing, District 5, how we gonna fund that?
I don't think that we've discussed that recently. Jack and I had.
You want me to update you on that?
Yeah.
Where we left that in the budget process was we were coming back, I believe, in October. The county attorney and myself were going to provide you the guidelines and sort of the roadmap to creating a special tax district for EMS for that district. And you were going to receive that and look at options at that point. It was a work session.
Yeah. Yeah, the coronavirus has kind of halted us doing a lot of things. I just got from Commissioner Mitchell a letter from the North Carolina Southeast thanking us for our financial support and leadership in the past year for Southeastern Partnership, who will help us with our economic development. So just to let you know about that. In addition to that, I'm going to be changing something like I do with the commissioners when I go around the room when we vote from now on. Sometimes I'll start off with Commissioner Booker, and sometimes I'll start off with Commissioner McCabe, just to switch it around a little bit, so that one person isn't getting the brunt of answering the question first. Other than that, I attended the Bridgeton Town Hall meeting. They had about, I guess, 20 people. They had it outside. They discussed a lot of talk about the animal shelter with the sheriff. The sheriff happened to be there, and I thought he did a good job in explaining to them. And I think many of the people recognize the job that we have done at the animal shelter, which, when you go back 10 years ago to now, it's a completely different thing. Probably one of the greatest improvements the county's had in a long while. Other than that, I would accept a motion for adjournment.
Chairman, let's have one more comment.
Yeah.
I don't know how many read this letter here about this 86-year-old man here, and he was saying, my name is Robert Brolin, I'm 86 years old, and life experience have thrown many problems my way throughout the years. However, not to the extent that I see today. The current pandemic has brought on situations in our lives that none of us could have ever been prepared to deal with, including me, sickness, death, economic stress, and the uncertainty of the future. It seems unbearable at times, but relief is available now. Our loving God and Creator is a God of comfort. His Word, the Bible, can give us relief from the stress that we are experiencing now. Notice the encouraging words found at Isaiah 41:10. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. Do not be anxious, for I am your God. I will fortify you. Yes, I will help you. I will really hold on to you with my right hand of righteousness. Please follow this website for more encouraging Bible-based help that you can have today to relieve you from stress. And it has this number down there that you can look it up. I think that's very nice.
Okay, thank you. Before I ask for adjournment again, I just want to mention the hospital are allowing one person to go into the emergency room with whoever is sick. And they're also now allowing visits, only one person to any patient that is in a room. Certain hours, I don't have that with me right now, but I'll give it to you next time. But they are allowing people now to come in and visit the patient. It helps the nursing staff, it helps the hospital, and it helps the person that's in the hospital. So I just want to let you know that. All right, I ask for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.